Loud and clear, I'm passing out to 3,000 feet left turn heading 240.
Passing 3,000 left 240.
World War II saw the advent of many top-secret projects aimed at developing new forms of weaponry and technology. Obviously, the most famous of these was the Manhattan Project, which yielded the nuclear bombs used to end the war with Japan. Others have either been forgotten, or more sinisterly, have been covered up due to their dangerous implications and unexpected results. One of these darker experiments, according to some, took place right at home in New York, in the town of Montauk on Long Island's eastern end. The effects of these evil experiments that took place are still being felt. In fact, some say the experiments are still going on. The strange events that have happened on Long Island have come to be known as the Montauk Project. This phrase refers to a series of top-secret experiments in mind control, time travel, psychotronics, and the creation of black holes. These experiments were based out of an old Air Force radar station, or more accurately, in a vast military complex hidden underneath the radar station. Work began at the Brookhaven National Laboratory under the guise of the Phoenix Project. However, it was soon realized that the project itself was missing a required, non-discrete component, which was, in fact, a rather large radar dish. The military knew installing one at Brookhaven would compromise the security of the project. Luckily, the U.S. Air Force had a decommissioned base at Montauk, New York, not too far from Brookhaven, which had a complete stage radar tower. The site was larger and far more remote than their current laboratory, and had access to waterways which would allow equipment to be moved in and out fairly undetected. In light of this revelation, the Air Force sent the required equipment to Camp Hero at the Montauk base in the late 1960s, and installed in an underground bunker beneath the base. According to some sources, in order to mask the nature of the project, the military site was closed in 1969, and was donated as a wildlife refuge, with the provision that everything beneath the soil would remain property of the United States Air Force, which made for a strange caveat, unless there was indeed something sinister lurking under the ground. Those same sources, along with many others, claim that the base remained in silent operation until the late 1980s. The park itself had never been open to the public, under the excuse of environmental contamination. It's said that construction began on a huge subterranean complex that would house the newly formed alliance of scientific and military minds, known as the Montauk Project. These individuals are said to encompass the most intelligent minds the world has to offer, including some of the Nazi scientists allotted to our country during Operation Paperclip. The refurbished base went into operation sometime in the early 1960s, and by 1970 the experiments being conducted under the surface of Montauk had reached dangerous proportions, seeming like something that should exist in a comic book or a science fiction novel, rather than in a sleepy Long Island beach town. The military was said to have focused the efforts of the Montauk Project primarily on mind control experimentation. This of course went beyond the simple LSD tests of MK Ultra and MK Surge. Instead of testing their own troops, they gathered sensitive young males, and in some cases, they supposedly even kidnapped ones they deemed special. Witnesses say that the boys would sit in specially developed chairs aimed at enhancing their latent psychic abilities. The chair was said to have been blasted with energy waves that allowed scientists to control their young subjects' minds. Amazingly, it was discovered that the most adept of these young psychics were able to focus on objects so intensely that the objects would momentarily, physically materialize. These events, of course, seem strange and impossible. However, it's been documented that the US military has investigated into psychic abilities before, some of which have been successful. However, in regards to the Montauk Project, legends say that the most noteworthy wielder of the power was a young man named Duncan Cameron. Experiments on Mr. Cameron led scientists to realize that their efforts allowed them to manipulate reality, not just spatially, but temporality as well. In other words, they have become masters of not just physical space, but also of time. At this point, many involved in the Montauk Project began to feel that it was reeling out of control. Scientists were said to have been creating wormholes on the premises of the base, which could then be used to further test time travel. This was viewed as maniacal and dangerous by many. The base itself was also physically growing out of control. By this point, its subterranean layers had grown so expansive that they lay directly beneath the town of Montauk itself. Many thought the project was growing too big to control and would meet with a disastrous end. Eventually, it had become obvious that the Montauk Project was impossible to support further. The project was dismantled. Many of the participants swore oaths of secrecy, vowing never to reveal what they had witnessed. The base itself was closed and abandoned. Some say minimal activity does still occur there, and it is tied to activities of nearby institutions, such as Brookhaven Labs. Some conspiracy theorists have claimed that these ongoing experiments helped inadvertently cause the tragic crash of TWA Flight 800 off of the coast of Long Island in 1996. These days, the surface of the supposed site of the Montauk Project, where the radar dish is located, is officially a state park. However, the United States military still owns all the property underneath the surface of the ground. In addition, police and military officials have been seen patrolling the area, even the areas which are listed as publicly accessible. Tales are told from time to time of suburban families looking to explore that were chased off the grounds by military men who offer very little explanation in regards to their action. In the end, who knows if the Montauk Project is still ongoing? Who knows how deep those cavernous laboratories stretch? And who knows what vast secrets they hold? The world may never know the full truth of what has gone beneath the sandy soil of Montauk.
Arrow at a 050 for 2000 on 1019. Code 1 for both, and Arrow 2 needs.
I hope you enjoyed that. And if you did, please leave a like and subscribe. It'd mean a lot to me. And as always, until next time.